Traders, how are you? Marcello, founder of the Day Trading Academy, co-founder of Speed Up Trader. Today we're going to be doing the recap of what happened in the markets last week. Overall, we had a pretty interesting week. We got banned from YouTube, which I guess is good news too, right? Because whoever gets banned from YouTube. So you guys, if you guys want to watch these videos on YouTube now, just look for my name, Marcello Arrambide, or Wandering Trader, because they banned the Day Trading Academy YouTube page. So overall on Monday, markets were mixed. We had very frequent record highs this week. Monday was mixed overall for the exchanges in the US, but the NASDAQ hit a record high. Tuesday, the overall markets were higher as well, but the S&P and NASDAQ hit an all-time high. Wednesday, the markets were lower, but we had the Dow hit an all-time high in addition to the S&P 500. And then Thursday and Friday, the markets were mixed. We had this situation with the stimulus delays, the surging coronavirus cases, and then no deal with the Brexit between England, the United Kingdom, and also the European Union. Overall for the week, the Dow went down 0.57%. For the year, it's up 5.28%. The S&P 500 went down 0.97%, whereas for the year, it's up 13.39%. And the NASDAQ went down 0.69%, even though for the year, it's up 37.95%. Overseas market news, the European markets are mostly lower after a 5-week positive streak. Overall, the Spanish exchange was down overall more than most at a negative 3.22%, while the Istanbul exchange of Turkey was up 2.99%. Latin America and Canada. Latin America mostly negative. I'm looking here at all the numbers. My dear and beautiful Colombia was down 2.77%, while Canada was up 0.39%. And in the Middle East and Africa, Nigeria, the biggest loser there at 2.59% negative. And in the Far East, we have Malaysia as the biggest winner as 3.86%, whereas the SEC in China went down 2.9%. Bitcoin and cryptocurrency news, analysts say, I haven't looked at a chart, so I'm just going by what they say. They're saying that about the 19,500, 19,600 range is a pretty important resistance area, and it might hold for the foreseeable future. If it does happen to break this area, analysts are saying that the uptrend can definitely continue much higher. DBS Bank of Singapore. Remember that Singapore is one of the most important financial hubs in the entire world now. They've just started a new digital assets exchange. It's going to be they're going to start trading next week. For those of you guys that are into crypto, I myself like more gold and silver, but to each their own, right? Other than that, the price of Bitcoin now is at a crossroads. They have diminishing trading volume, hinting at some more downside action in the short term. Overall for the week, it was down 3.15% at about 18,414.90 cents. Financial and banking news, a bipartisan group of U.S. senators have brought a bill of $908 billion to be able to have a new federal stimulus bill. It includes $288 billion for small businesses, $180 billion for unemployment benefits, $160 billion for state and local governments to help the troubled economic sectors, in addition to, for example, $17 billion for the airline industry, things like that. So a good sign, even though short term it's a good sign, we're kind of putting a Band-Aid on a cut, right? Because if we're at $27 trillion in debt, and at some point we got to pay that all back. We're just not thinking of the future because we want that, we want to put the Band-Aid on to kind of cover, to make the pain go away. Other than that, Iraq is poised to sign a 5-year, multi-billion dollar contract with China Zhenhua Oil Co. It's going to be a bailout for the cash-strapped country. And this is something that China's been doing overall, where they're lending people money up front, and then they're getting paid back in barrels of oil, essentially. Ecuador did it. Angola, which is a previous Portuguese colony in Africa. Now it's its own country, obviously. Venezuela as well. The ECB, the European Central Bank, they're also going to continue their stimulus as well for another 6 months until 2021. They're adding about 500 billion euros, or roughly $605 billion, to the Pandemic Emergency Purchase Program. And the total wealth of U.S. households, due to the absolutely spectacular run in the stock market, in addition to the real estate, is about $123.5 trillion in September. One of the things that you guys have to know, I've been traveling around the world now for, I think it's about 12 years or so, right? So the majority of emerging economies, places like Colombia, for example, most of their wealth is in real estate. Whereas more advanced economies like the US and most parts of Europe and Canada and Australia and Singapore, a lot of them invest in the stock market. So if we have the stock market continuing to go up and we even have real estate values going up, that's where the majority of the wealth is. And they do that on purpose, in my opinion, because if the government does the stimulus, right, all of these things go up. Essentially, they're all asset bubbles, right? In 1998, we had a fund called Long-Term Capital Management, POP. That was part of the dot-com bubble, for example. What happened? Wall Street and a bunch of banks, basically, there was a bailout for them. They never fixed the problem. They just kicked the can down the road. Then we had the 2008, 2009 financial crisis. Then what happened? The governments bailed them out, right? And now we're at a situation where governments can't go bankrupt, right? Like the UK, the British Empire, or Rome, for example. And that's where we're heading now. It's just they never fix the problem, and they just inject more and more money into the system without actually fixing the problem. So at some point, the system is going to change. And that's when I believe we're going to have, for example, the euro, the digital euro, which the European Central Bank already registered as a trademark. That's why I believe, for example, that blockchain is more the future in relation to the cryptos rather than actual cryptos themselves, even though, you can still buy and it'll go up and down and things like that. So the record household wealth increased for that reason to a record $123.5 trillion in September. And obviously that has provided a little bit of change in expectations, because obviously everybody expected things to not go as well due to the pandemic. And we have a situation where wealth is going up and the economy seems to be recovering pretty well. In commodities, we had the 6th consecutive week on stronger future demand for oil. So we had the 6th consecutive week of positive results for oil. OPEC, this was a few reasons. One, the situation with the vaccines. Another thing is OPEC Plus deciding to go ahead and make an output cut deal. And in addition to that, we have the situation where even though we have the cases of coronavirus increasing with the vaccines, as I mentioned a moment ago, there's good expectations that we're going to get to what we consider to be back to normal. U.S. crude for the week went up 0.67% to $46. International Brent went up 1.46% to $49.97. And precious metals on Wednesday especially took quite a hit, more than anything due to the situation with the vaccines. The movement, I swing trade mostly silver now. So the situation with gold and silver is that if we expect everything to get back to normal and people think everything is okay, then gold and silver are going to go down. Obviously, oil is going to go up while gold and silver go down, because if we're going to go back to normal, then everybody's going to start driving and flying again. That the demand for oil goes up. So precious metals for the week, gold is up 0.07% to 1,840, whereas silver went down 1.04% to $24.01. In political news, there were elections in Venezuela where only 31% of the population actually voted. And of that vote, the results, the US, the EU, and a dozen of Latin American countries are not accepting the results of the election because a lot of allies of the dictator President Maduro actually won. And he won a majority too, by the way. The U.S. Supreme Court Friday rejected an effort by Texas and multiple different attorney generals across different states, a lawsuit that they brought against the Joe Biden victory in the election. So that's not going to be able to be overturned. This is a major blow to the Trump's legal campaign in regards to the election. And the Texas lawsuit was backed by Trump, 18 GOP state attorneys generals, and in addition to 126 House Republicans. In economic news, U.S. worker non-farm productivity measures, say that three times fast. U.S. worker non-farm productivity measures, hourly output per worker, so essentially all the jobs that aren't in agriculture or farms, increased strongly to 4.6% at an annualized rate in third quarter. That, even though it's a little bit overstated due to the fact that the rebound is mostly due to people coming back from the quarantines of the COVID. Number of Americans filing first-time claims for unemployment benefits also went up more than expected. The expectation was 716,000 last week, and it hit 853,000. And this has to do with a situation where we do have a lot of states, because of the surging in cases, for example, California and New Jersey and New York, a lot of where the major population centers are, for example, are going back into lockdown mode. And obviously, if you have a restaurant or something, you're literally just broke because you can't do any business anymore. Other than that, in corporate news, Adani Green Energy, which is one of India's largest conglomerates, has had one of the best results in 2020 on the India exchange. It's gone up 562% this year compared to just 10% for the Nifty, which is the Indian stock exchange, the main one. And that allowed them entry into the MSCI India Index as well. DoorDash, which I'm sure many of you know, where you can order food, they had their IPO on Wednesday. Their stock went 86% higher to $189 from the original price of $102, giving it an overall market cap of about $60 billion. Airbnb, another popular IPO that went out this week, they had a third quarter profit of $219 million, which they raised the IPO price for. And if you guys don't know what IPO means, it's initial public offering, which means it's the first time that a company goes public. They priced their shares at $68. They were expecting $56 to $60, valuing the firm at about $47 billion. The shares skyrocketed 113% to $144.71. And I think that's a little bit overvalued in my opinion. But if you guys got in on the IPO, congratulations. Disney wrapped up its Investor Day with a $1 a month increase on its Disney Plus service. They raised the price to $7.99. They also reported that they have more than 86 million subscribers, plus 18% last month. They're expecting to have between 230 to 260 million subscribers by 2024 across all streaming platforms. And their stock is up 21.50% in 2020, even though most of their theme parks still remain closed or limited due to the situation with the pandemic. Trade news, the global demand goods from China keeps on growing as well, especially having to do with the protective gear and work from home tech products. As obviously most things are still made in China, for example. Their exports were up 21%, while their imports only went 4.5% higher. So they have a surplus of just over $75 billion, topping the previous record set in May. And the negotiations for the Brexit between the UK and the EU has failed, or I should say they hit a snag is a better way to say it. They're hung up over the fishing rights and competitive playing field and enforcement, because obviously Europe wants high taxes and bureaucracy, where the UK is a little bit more limiting, let's say, when it comes to those things, and a little bit more business friendly. Plan B has surfaced from the EU side, including a short list to ensure that they have reciprocal air and road connectivity in addition to reciprocal fishing access. In technology, for you guys that are Apple fans, for the first time, they are coming out with a $549 premium-based headphones that are coming out December 15th. If you guys want to go ahead and spend your money on overpriced technology like Apple, like we all do, right? I buy Samsungs, you buy Apple. It's kind of the same thing. And Toyota is also unveiling a sleeker and longer traveling version of the hydrogen-powered car, which is called Mirai. What they've been trying to do with the Mirai, which is based on hydrogen and it only emits water vapor instead of carbon, is use that as kind of a bridge to be able to move into better technology, that what they say that isn't the gas-based cars that we have now, which pollute the environment. So they can be charged in under 5 minutes, but unfortunately, due to the increasing, not unfortunately, but they haven't done as well with this car, let's say. They've only sold 11,000 units in the last 6 years because of the raging popularity of battery-powered cars. In investment news, Uber announced on Monday that it's going to sell its self-driving unit called Aurora, self-driving car unit to a startup called Aurora. They also are going to invest $400 million in the firm as part of the deal, even though the final price wasn't disclosed. And bipartisan group and U.S. state attorney generals, as well as the Federal Trade Commission, the FTC, have filed a lawsuit against Facebook, an antitrust lawsuit, saying that they should be broken up. So they believe with this lawsuit that Instagram and WhatsApp should be different entities outside of Facebook, and they're saying that to maintain their monopoly power, they were acquiring potential rivals, including WhatsApp and Instagram. UK's AstraZeneca, which is a front runner in the COVID pandemic vaccine development, is going to buy the drug maker main Alexion Pharmaceuticals for about $39 billion in cash and shares. They're doing that to strengthen their positions in the immunology in addition to the rare diseases department. And U.S. gaming platform, which is called Roblox Corp., valued at $4 billion, is going to plan its IPO in 2021 due to the fact that they had some delays in regards to the SEC disclosures. And shares of another company called U.S.-based Cartera rose 65% with another IPO. You guys may not have seen it due to the IPOs from DoorDash and Airbnb, but their shares, their offering price was $23. It spiked to $29.90 and raised about $668 million. NASDAQ, after the regulation that was passed saying that all foreign companies have to be allowed to audit their books, they're removing 4 Chinese companies, which are based on construction and manufacturing, because of the tensions between the U.S. and China. So they're removing those companies from the NASDAQ exchange. And in international events, Israel and Morocco agreed on a, let's call it a peace deal. They call it more normalized relations after this is the 4th Arab country now that has agreed to normalizing relations with Israel. The Trump administration, in return, has finally recognized Morocco's sovereignty over the Western Sahara region. And U.S. Secretary General Antonio Gutierrez is saying that global countries should declare a climate emergency to avoid the catastrophic global warming. And over 70 leaders are going to attend the one-day virtual event to be able to go ahead and not accommodate, but congratulate isn't the right word, I forgot the word in English, but essentially it's the 5th anniversary of the Paris Climate Accords. And an unusual facts for this week, billionaire Elon Musk, the CEO of Tesla and SpaceX, is the latest person to relocate from Texas to California. Nothing like the Socialist Republic of California. The exodus continues. He says he wants to focus more on SpaceX and Tesla. His shares of Tesla have gone up 670% this year alone. His wealth has increased from $27 billion to $155 billion, and he compares himself to a war general. And last but not least, there's a financier, which is a Lebanese-Brazilian financier named Joseph Safra. He had a banking fortune of $19.9 billion. He died at 82 of natural causes, and he helped to build the Safra banks to the 8th largest in all of Brazil. That's the news for this week, guys. Let me know if you guys have any questions. Don't forget to subscribe. We'll see you next week.